Hi, welcome to class. We're the only two right now, but the other ones will show up eventually, right? I hate my life. I hate my life. And Professor Sunreis Productions! Hello class, Professor Sunreis here. In today's class, we're taking a look at my tinkering with Bystial Synchro. I've been testing with this deck for like 3 weeks now, just in my free time. I've not really feeling Dueling Book all too crazy, so I was just really testing and theorizing the deck, and overall I'm at a raid, or I'm at a build where I'm really happy with it. It's still definitely not finished, and it's still definitely not the craziest deck. I don't think it is really better than Dragon Link or anything. Probably like a decent tier 2 or maybe even tier 3 deck. It does have its niches, for example the Omega Loop where it really shines, but overall it deck tries a little bit too much, doesn't have a coherent one card combo, and also it just crumbles to a few hand traps here and there. But overall it's very fun to play, and it's a nice change of pace of normal Dragon Link. So without further ado, definitely pass on the subscribe button, leave some feedback down in the comment section below, and let's get right into the video. So before we go into the actual good list which I had, let's take a look at the beginning where I started off. So I got heavily inspired by a list which I saw on YouTube, which was using, of course, the Bystials, then using a Cyber Gadget next to all of the good level 2 tuners in tuning, Assault Synchron, and Ringworm, having the Kaliga Clawcrow in there because of Cupid Pitch being somewhat of like the cornerstone of any combo, and getting into that is also really easy with Sprite Package. The Sprite Package also gave a lot of good options later on in the combo, overlaying a Link 2 and any random level 2 tuner you had as a leftover could get you into Gigantic, going to Blue, Jet, adding the starter, and then having a Gin Buster plus like a carrot for the opponent's turn was all really solid. Overall, the deck just lacked a little bit of consistency and like a cohesive game plan, if that makes sense. Because yes, Cyber Schedule is a really good starter, giving you a random body, which you most of the time use to go into a sprint, sending any of the other level 2s, which you didn't already have. And then a normal level 2 monster, which was really important for Ringworm, opening up some really good Cupid pitch lines. The problem is, Assault Synchron doesn't do the same thing as Cyber Gadget, so you had really solid 2-code combos with Cyber Gadget and Ringworm or Sprite Blue, but you didn't really have any solid 2-card combos with Tuning or Assault Synchron, so the deck was lacking a little bit on that department. Also, the Sprite package, while really solid if you just draw blue, you already have like 4 undesirable draws, which you don't really want. Of course, you can cut them to 1, but then still you have 3 undesirable draws. All doesn't seem too good. The Bestial package was decent, but you lacked a few of the enablers of getting them out quite early, and they felt like they didn't offer any of the good combos which you wanted to go for Cupid Pitch, right? They were only really good if your Cupid Pitch already resolved. Add to that you kind of lacked access into them, and only really Lobelium was really good, and the rest were just all lackluster. So overall, this deck was a decent start, but the lack of a cohesive game plan and the weird 2-card combos where Cyber Gadget is really good with Ringworm or these, but really bad with them. The Bystials coming in too late and start bricking, but you still want to see them because Regained is just so important for the deck, for the grind game. You definitely had to do some testing there. And then I decided to switch up the whole game plan, and I ended on a list something like, damn, that's a dramatic effect right there. Thank you, Dueling Book. Something like this. This is a 40-card clean list with 12 non-engine slots, which was very important for me because I only wanted this deck to work if I have at least 12 non-engine slots. Let's take a look at the list. For the Bystial package, 3 Rebellion, 3 Magnamut, 2 Styrene because I wanted to have more access into Rebellion. It's definitely the better of the extenders. You could argue to cut it for the Druid's Worm in the main deck, but because we are not looking to go for a branded beast, we have no way of actually triggering the Druid's Worm. Depending on the format, I would still maybe play it just because it's a really good going second tool. And then we only have 1 Baldric in the main and a Regained. A reason is we lack Bystials on the end board, so a branded beast doesn't really offer us anything, so we'd much rather use a branded Regained to get some nice resources in our turn. Hopefully, you can't do it all too often, but you can definitely do it. And then use a Regained to summon a Dissipator in the opponent's turn, and then we can freely use the Dissipator. Yeah, I got a dog, by the way. He's probably gonna help me in a lot of those recordings anyways. Then you can use the Dissipator freely to go into a seal, greatly giving you some much needed grind game, because that's definitely a problem of the deck. It doesn't build up a crazy strong negate board. It's definitely not auto-win, and it doesn't really have a lot of follow-up if you don't go for a seal. But if this deck tries to go for a seal plus a Baron and maybe get like an Omega hand loop in there, the grind game is definitely good enough compared to what the end board is asking of the opponent to break it. So I'm really happy with this changed up Bystial package. For the level 2 tuners, we did change a few things. Tuning and Assault Synchro are still just the best copies, especially tuning enabling more lights and darks in the graveyard, because we are trying to make our deck to hit those a little more consistently. Becomes a really solid card. Of course, Assault Synchro is mandatory. And then we have one Plague Spreader and one Shinobi Necro. The reason is because our cornerstone of the combo is actually a Model Dragon, and we try to turbo into that. Sending a level 2 tuner and then being a level 4 tuner on the board enables very good things. Together with Chaos Base or all of the Bystials. So the Bystials actually become way better earlier on in the combo, which is really helpful and much appreciated. Also giving you access into more level 2 tuners, which was something the deck lacked as well, because you had 3 Ringleworm and then the 6 tunings or Assault Synchron. So you had 9 copies, and if you can already see here, we have 9 copies and everything which gets us into the Immortal Dragon. Most of the time this will be the Realm Heart here, more on that later. It's actually 12 copies of any tuners, or level 2 tuners, which is definitely much appreciated. But more importantly, you can also use, for example, the Realm Heart to do something differently by going into an Immortal Dragon, giving you more ways to have less redundancy in your hand and actually going into different paths and combos. So it's not only level 2 tuners, but it's more importantly, it is level 2 tuners if you need them to be, but you can also do different things with them. Before I was only playing 2 Plague Spreader, but the Shinobi Necro, because we combo so heavily with the Bystials, just became really good, because it didn't require us to use our hand advantage to make our plays. And Shinobi Necro, while it is a little more bricky, I'd say, than a Plague Spreader, because we just plan to send it with an Immortal Dragon, it is definitely fine. Then lastly, one Ringleworm, because we don't have any normal monsters, this card is just not very good. It is good in the graveyard, so pitching it off a Chaos Base and not having to banish it is really solid, but most of the time this is just there as a searchable Magnum target, because if you don't have a level 2 tuner and you resolve a Magnum in the opponent's turn, being able to search a Ringleworm, normal summon it, go into a Synchro 8 already is a really solid play. Now we need more extenders in a sense which we had similar to the Sprite Blue package, and for that I had the Chaos Base. It plays really well with the Immortal Dragon, opening it up, plus any level 2 tuner, or being a really good extender afterwards. So the Chaos Base is really good, only with the 2 Chaos Babies. It also opens up some nice resource loops, getting us into the non-engine of the deck, which is really helpful. Always appreciate a nice draw next to the endboard, especially because our endboard is not too crazy, and more importantly, it gives us access into more Libellions, which I was really struggling with, because Libellion is such an important card for this deck, because like I said, most of the grind game relies on Branded Regained resolving, and if you don't have access to Libellion, the likelihood that we can go for a seal becomes exponentially even lower. So Chaos Base really helps with that, being able to extend our main combo, but also being able to go into Libellion is super crucial in my opinion. Having access into Chaos Base is really important for this deck, and I wouldn't play it without a Chaos Base. So the Immortal Dragon approach to the deck already becomes way more fluent in my opinion, just because it also gives us access into Libellion. And then lastly, I was looking for a really nice normal summon, because the deck didn't really have one. I didn't want to brick on it, so I didn't want to require too many like engine requirements like bricks or like extra space, though we could definitely have some of those. So we just wanted to have a clean one. First of all, I was thinking about Armageddon Knight, sending a Plague Spreader. That was the cleanest thing I had in my mind. And then just required to be using Plague Spreader again. Definitely hit our card advantage, and I was just looking around and I just found, wait, Vanadium Realm Heart is a really good normal summon. It's a light, so we can combo off with the Bystials afterwards, and it's a 1-card Synchro 6. So we use normal summon Realm Heart effect to search Meek. Then we special summon Meek because we control a monster which is Visa Starfrost or has the stats of a Visa Starfrost. We go into a Immortal Dragon, we send any level 2, and then we can use any Bystial or the Chaos Base package to continue popping off. I was also considering to play a non-tuner which you could get on the board with the zombie package. So any zombie which we send to the graveyard, you could summon itself, and it's a non-tuner then to combo off by itself, but I didn't find anything. So if I found anything, I would definitely let you know, guys. And then we have 12 non-engine pieces with Droll, Ash, Vader, and Imperm. You could also play Book of Moon, stuff like that. You could cut the Ashes, you could play Nib. Overall, I thought maybe having more light targets here would help, so I'd put in the Valors. These could be Book of Moons. This will definitely just be more and more testing required to able to find out what you really want with this deck, because 12 hand traps, well, fine. It's definitely nothing crazy, so having a Book of Moon in there could be really good, especially because it's so good right now. But overall, that's a really solid main deck. Only thing which you could argue to play more would be like a Jerusalem over the Saronir for going second reasons. This could be better, or you could play something else to send with an Immortal Dragon if there's anything better. I would, like I said, definitely let you know. Other than that, I think this main deck is looking pretty solid. For the side deck, we have a Branded Beast package because I figure it's really solid in so many matchups. I'd much rather play it. And then we have a Thrust package and the Kurikara, just like in the main deck of my Dragon Link. I think this is a really solid approach to the meta right now, and I don't see myself changing them up, so I wouldn't know a reason why I shouldn't play them. So I like them. In the extra deck, we have probably the most things to do still. There's still a lot of room for cards we could change out. We have Dispater, Baron, and Changing for the Synchro 10s. A lot of time this deck can make another Synchro 10, or wants to make another Synchro 10 post turn 1, and the Changing, in my opinion, is just the best there, becoming a huge beast stick for the deck, but also being able to very easily trigger its effect with Bystials is definitely nothing to scoff at. You could also argue to play another Dispater for the grind game. Who knows? Then we have the Bystial Synchron, the Stardust Dragon. If we don't have access into Lubellion, we use the Stardust Dragon because we very easily get 2 level 2 tuners into the graveyard via Immortal Dragon. And then if we have a Heartron Assault Synchron, we can revive the Plague Spreader or the Shinobi Necro of the Bystial Synchro Stardust Dragon, and then we can use its effect to tribute itself, summon the Stardust, make an Baron, and then on res we can use the Assault Synchron, banish it from the graveyard, and then summon back the level 8 Bystial Synchro Stardust Dragon to extend into the Dispater and continue coming off of that. So definitely a very important tool if we don't have the Rebellion there. 1 Omega, this is the only niche the deck has where you could say this is what the deck is good at. Honestly, this deck is not really good. It's just very fun to play, and it's something different, but it's not good. It's definitely not better than Dragon Link. It's definitely not better than Vanadium or any of the other combo piles right now. I'm not even sure if it's better than Synchron Brave pile or whatever, but hand looping Omega is really fun, especially because we have regained, so we can sometimes make a very early Omega, hand trip, and then we can make a Dispater, hand trip, and then we can trigger the regained, put the Omega back, and then we sometimes can even make another Omega, and we can hand trip for 3, not giving the opponent any card back, because once Omega leaves the banish pile, the card which we banished in the first place just become banished forever. So Omega can be really fun. It doesn't come up all too crazy, and most of the hands actually just end on Seal, Branded Beast, Branded Regain, sorry, and a Baron, and maybe an Omega hand trip for 1 if we had a good hand. But it definitely can come up, so that's kind of fun. Then we have the Immortal Dragon, and then we have a Stardust Charge Warrior and a Coral Dragon for Synchro 6s to ladder up into, because we play Chaos Base to get us into our bigger boards and just have a free draw with it attached. Coral Dragon is also really solid because it actually gives a draw, and it's a dragon, so we can make it into a seal, which is really helpful. Definitely comes up more than the Charge Warrior, so you could definitely cut this, but for now I like them because they help us get card advantage and make our end board a little stronger by hopefully drawing some non-engine, so I really appreciate that. And then lastly, for links, we have an Army Rush, because if you have any level 2 tuner, plus another one, we can just normal summon one, and they all have less than 1k attack, and they all are light or dark, so they all enable our Bystials. So if we have 2 level 2 tuners and a Bystial, we can combo off thanks to the Army Rush. A seal for the end board, you definitely don't need 2 in this deck because you play so little dragons anyways, probably not gonna come up. And then 1 Azala, this probably should be a dark, and then Unicorn Access Code just for utility links. This is probably the most standard utility links you could run right now. And overall, like I said, I'm really happy with how this deck is playing. I think it's close to the maximum of its potential. There's just some slight tweaking there, here and there probably. But overall, I'm happy with how the deck plays. And I'm actually going to showcase you guys a few combos or test stands with this deck. So, while this deck has 12 non-engine slots, which is actually really solid, sadly most of its combos are actually 3-card combos. There are very few good 2-card combos. One of them is Assault Synchron plus Lubellion. Let's just take a look at 1 or 2 test hands and see how this deck would actually play. In this hand, you definitely start with the Lubellion because you have to respect draw and Chaos Base. While it's a really solid card, it kind of dies to draw in this format, so it's a little scary to use so early on. And here we would probably, let me think here, search a Serenia because we want to be able to have access into the Lubellion. So we summon the Serenia, banish the Lubellion, and then we summon the Assault Synchron probably. Yeah, we don't really have a target for the Chaos Base anyway, so there's no reason to use it here in this turn. We use the effect here because we could always draw into some normal summons later on, and then we go into an Excel Stardust, triggering the Serenia in the meantime to go into sending a Lubellion, and then being able to revive the Assault Synchron. From here on, we go into a Dissipator. We tribute the Dissipator off for the Rebellion. Trigger the Assault Synchron, reviving the Dissipator. Now we go for Rebellion, giving us access into Regained. We sadly only have one Bystial in here, which we probably will have to banish here because we can actually extend this combo quite far. If we didn't have the Wyver Burster here, you would just use the Dissipator to revive the Assault Synchron, make a Baron, and pass. That's not a crazy board. It's definitely just the bare minimum, but together with an Ash, it is okay. What we will be doing here is we could argue to just go for effect Dissipator here to go for the Assault Synchron. And then we would immediately turn those into a seal to have some nip protection. Then we use the Wyver Burster on the Saronia. Go into an Immortal Dragon. Trigger the Wyver Burster to search a Chillhop Serpent. And then we use the Immortal Dragon to probably send a Plague because we have no way of actually triggering the Shinobi Necro because it has to be banished by effect or by cost, not by summoning condition. So we cannot sadly trigger that. So we just send a Plague here, making this a level 4. You could argue to not even trigger it at all if you want to consider that, but because we can just go for a Charge Warrior as well, I think just cycling through the deck here is definitely a pretty solid thing. So we trigger the Regain here, put it at the bottom of the deck, draw and Meek. That's definitely fine because now we can just summon the Plague Spreader by putting this on top of the deck. This gets banished. We go into a Charge Warrior, chaining 1 charge, chaining 2 Chillhop Serpent, very important. This is a win effect, so I think it has to be chaining 1 anyways. But we want to definitely shuffle the deck because we don't want to draw a Meek. Draw a card, it's another Ash, but that's fine. Now we have a 4 and a 6, and we turn those into a Baron. And that's basically the turn. We have a Seal to bounce and get us some nice follow-up. We have a Baron as an Omni Negate, and then we have Baron Regain being able to revive a Dissipator. In the opponent's turn, we have the banish things in there so we can get some value off that. Next turn, we have a Wyver Burster to banish a Chillhop Serpent again to get an additional draw, or we can use Chaos Space if we draw into a Dark to search another Rebellion and pop off from there onward. So that's overall really solid. Nothing crazy, but it's definitely a decent hand, and I think it showcased you guys the approach the deck is trying to do while comboing off the actual ceiling of the deck, and it actually showcased you guys how the deck is not really that good, right? Because a nip there would have been really crucial on us, like nip on the Dissipator summon, which we used off the Assault Synchron, would have basically been a turn skip there. It also showed that maybe we want to play a Striker Dragon as well, just so that a Chaos Space can be a 1.5 card seal pass, definitely giving us some much needed safety nets if we get hit by either a bad hand or a shit ton of hand traps on the opponent's part. So this is probably one of the best hands the deck could produce. Chillhop Serpent and Droll could also be exchanged by any light or dark plus a Chaos Space, making the hand probably a little better from a seeding perspective, but against Droll, which is ever present in the format, that's probably not better. But let's take a look how I would play this one out, especially if we want to Omega hand trap a lot, because we maybe know the opponent is on a lot of board breakers, not so many hand traps. You could definitely play it something like this. You could immediately use Magnamid here, banish the Rebellion, summon Assault Synchron, make an Omega. And in the beginning, this is what I was doing a lot, but actually better is to just still go for somewhat normal plays in the beginning and then commit later on. So we use the Realm Heart here to search a Meek, and then we summon the Meek. We go for the Immortal Dragon, trigger the Immortal Dragon to send a Shinobi Necro because we actually have a Bystial for some reason here. And then because we have a level 4 here, we can summon the Chillhop Serpent, banish the Realm Heart. And then we can go for the first Omega. Trigger the Chillhop Serpent to search a Wyver Burster. Clear this, banish, first card hand trapped. Okay, now we have more plays. We have a level 4, we have a level 6, and we have a level 2 extender, which we of course want to get into the graveyard somewhat fast because we want to be able to trigger the effect of the Assault Synchron when we use a Rebellion or get hit by a Nibiru, for example. So what I would be doing here is, so we use the Magnamid here, banish the Shinobi Necro. Magnamid, and then the Shinobi Necro triggers, summoning it. And now we summon the Assault Synchron. Take 700. And go into the Axle, triggering the Axle to get ourselves a Meek. And then we could go for the Dissipator here immediately, but I don't think we need to do that, so we would go for Yeah, actually, I think we have to. And we don't have to, but I think it's a very solid play because we still have the Lubellion and the Assault Synchron. So even if we get nipped here, we definitely would still have some nice plays there. And we actually have the Omega and the Banish pile already, so we can use that to trigger the Regained and go for those very big combos. I don't think we have the ability to make a third Omega in this hand, unless we draw into another level 2 tuner, but for now that we don't really need that. So I would probably tribute the Lubellion here. Now we would first summon the Omega back, so we have a protection against the upcoming nip if it would come up here. We tribute that, and then we banish the Assault Synchron, summoning back the Dissipator. Now we go for the Regained, and now we have to consider what we want to do. We have a Baron here. Yeah, we definitely have everything which we need. So we use the Omega and banish it, and here we have to make a decision if we want to keep the Omega in the banish pile, want to put it into the extra deck, or if we want to recycle a Cool Servant. I honestly think recycling a Cool Servant is really solid because of all of the level 2 tuners which we have access to. So having a level 4 in the hand allows for a quick Synchro 6 to at least get some sort of value in the next turn. So I think that is a fine play. So we won't trigger the Regain here, but instead we will go for Baron. And this one should be banished. And then we use the Wyver Burst on the Cool Serpent. Effect of the Regained. Put it at the bottom. Draw one. It's a Ball Drake, so that's solid. We would have added that, but that's fine. We make a seal. And then we pass, and in the end phase we can actually just search probably a Ringo Worm because we have then access into it. Of course, we also have this. So of this 4-card combo, respectively, we had a Seal, we have a Baron, we have a Branded Regain set up, we have hand looped the opponent twice, and we have one more non-engine slot, and we drew one card. So that's really, really solid, of course, if it goes uninterrupted. We had a few lines there which died to a hand trap. So low impact hand traps wouldn't have done too much of a thing. Even a draw would have been fine because we had a lot of the pieces hard drawn. This changes, of course, if we draw a tuning instead of an Assault Synchron hard. Stuff like that. If we use the Rebellion first and we have a tuning in there, that's just one dead card, of course. But sometimes you can play through draw quite effectively. Sometimes it just stops your turn. And if there would have been very good on a few spots and not so impactful on other spots, so definitely depending on how well they know the deck, a nip there could have been neck breaking or could have been fine. At least we probably would have still gotten a hand trip 2 out of them, even if they nipped us. So that's pretty fine in my opinion. We wouldn't have access into the Regain, but we would have still had hand trip 2 resolve Magnamut, so we still could have played in the next turn while hand tripping for 2 and still having a non-engine slot in there. So I think there was a very good showcase of what the deck is at its peak, and even at its peak, like I said, it's not the best. I think with a realistic approach, this is probably like a tier 3 deck, maybe a tier 2 deck if you play it perfectly and make a few tweaks here and there and you know all the combos. Maybe the deck gets a little better then. But for now, I think the deck is solid tier 3, maybe tier 2.5 if that's even a thing. But it's super fun and it's a change of pace, and hopefully we'll be able to get all of the cards and then make some nice local footage with it, because I don't think I will be playing this one online because I like to play my new decks with real life cards and not so much on an online simulator. But once I get access to all of the cards, which is not a lot, I mean most of them are Dragon Link cards, the whole extra deck should be already at my pace, apart from the Immortal Dragon, I guess. Yeah, should have everything. So definitely stay tuned. I will be giving you guys some more footage with this deck, but overall, don't be too excited about it. It's not the best deck in the world. It's just a little bit of fun here and there on this side. Hope you guys enjoyed today's class. Class is dismissed. You guys are free to leave. Professor Sunreis out. Peace.